Today we will be fetching data from an API using Redux Thunk. So inside our components we have our thunk example.js. So here we are going to render some text inside our h1 first, that is fetching data from the backend. So today we will be fetching our data from our backend using Redux Thunk. And now we will write our component did mount. Here we will add this .props on fetch data. On fetch data is inside our actions folder. We will write it soon. Next we are going to add our this .props error, and inside a p tag we will also render that. So again we will write this .props error. Similarly we are going to display this .props data, and inside an ordered list we are going to have this .props data.id, and next one is this .props data.title. So after adding these two lists we will close our UL tag. These are the two components that we will render. First is the ID and second is the title. We will get the information on our screen as well as inside our console. Next, here we will add two functions, that is our const map state to props. It takes the input of state and it will return number which is assigned to state.num, and it will have data that is assigned to state.data and error which is assigned to state.error. Next we will write our const map dispatch props, which takes the input of dispatch. So const map dispatch props taking the input of dispatch, and it returns on fetch data, which is assigned to an arrow function which takes dispatch of fetch data. And we will also import fetch data from our actions.js. So we will write that and then import it inside our file. And lastly we will use our connect function and we will add map state props and map dispatch props inside our thunk example. Now we are going to create a folder inside our store, that is action.js. Inside action.js we are going to write synchronous action creator and asynchronous action creator. So export const increment, this is synchronous action creator. It has the return type increment. The asynchronous one is our export const fetch data. Similarly this is also an arrow function, and here we are going to return the input dispatch, and inside that we are going to mention return fetch and the URL of our API. So you will find the URL inside our description box, or you can manually type it. So after writing the URL we are going to add then and response. The response is assigned to response.json, and again then, where this is assigned to JSON. So JSON assigned to dispatch, and our dispatch has the type fetch data and it has the data of JSON. So type and then data JSON. Lastly we will write catch for the error. So catch which has error which is assigned to dispatch, and it has the type is here error, and it displays the message unable to fetch data in case we are not able to reach our action. So unable to fetch data. And that's it, we are done for our action.js. Moving on to reducer.js. Here we are going to create const initial state and will assign it to num, which is 0, state data, which is null, and error, which is an empty string. Next we are going to write our const reducer. Here the state is assigned to initial state and it takes the action as input, writing our switch statement, and then action.type is the parameter here. The first case is increment. Increment returns the copy of previous state and the number where we are going to increment the number. So num is assigned to state.num plus 1. The second case is fetch data. Here we are going to return the copy of the previous state and the data, that is action.data, and case 3 is the error. Inside error we are going to return the copy of the previous state and our error is assigned to action.message. Lastly is our default return state, and we will just export default our reducer. After this we will add thunk example in our app.js, and inside our index.js we will import reducer from store.reducer. Next we will create the const using create store method. So create store, const store is assigned to create store, and we will pass reducer and apply middleware as the input. So we will also import apply middleware in our index.js, and inside apply middleware we will pass the argument of thunk, and so we will also import thunk from Redux Thunk. After saving all our files we will get the following output. So here you can see we are getting the output, the ID is mentioned and the title is mentioned. Now we will move to the network and we will reload the page once so that we can fetch the data. Make sure that you are connected to network, otherwise you will get that error message that is unable to fetch data. And inside that one you can see we have the ID and title mentioned. So that's it for today.